Ladies and gentlemen, we did it. Yeah, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. As you see, somehow I managed to get Klipper onto my Ender 6. And even with, you see, the original stock Ender 6 touchscreen, this thing is working. I can do what I can do or wanna do. And yeah, I managed to get everything working. So in this video, I will show you how you set up your own Klipper config and how you can manage to get the touchscreen running. It's not that hard, I think, when you figured it out how to do this. And yeah, I will start with the hardware. You have to make some changes to the cable that goes from the touchscreen onto the SKR board. And yeah, this is all you have to do for the hardware if you want to use Klipper with the stock screen, and the rest is software. Yeah, the rest is software, nearly. One thing before we start, or I think we will do it later. I had some problems with the pressure at once, but to that point we will come later. So I think I turn the printer now and open up the bottom plate and show you what I did with the cable. So welcome to the bottom. This is my electronic case now. Not not so empty anymore. Yeah, how you set up the SKR board with everything was in my last video to the Marlin firmware. Down here is a 5-volt power supply. I connected that thing directly onto the main power supply, so it takes the 230 volt directly from the plug, goes directly in. And yeah, I need this power supply for 2 reasons. The first one, it has 5 amps output by 5 volt, and the good thing about that is it has clearly enough power for the Raspberry that is in here to this holder. Both things are just glued with double-sided tape. Yeah, working, holding, as you see. There is normally a cover for it, but I reconstructed because I want to use more GBIO pins, but we come later to that, or even not, because the thing is, this power supply that I'm using is for the Raspberry as said, and for some LEDs, for NeoPixel LEDs, and maybe also a relay, but I'm not sure at the moment if I want to use that. Yeah, and yes, I also need this power for the webcam too, that I mounted on top of the Ender 6. And yeah, this is my actual setup. And also the speaker is working, but yeah, the sounds are horrible. So no. I even have some space down here. Maybe I find some devices that I can put there, make suggestions, don't know. So yeah, here is the cable from the LCD, and it is connected on this plug. Come on, yeah, this one. And what you have, where you have to look at now is normal. What I did, I cut the cable or the original plug, and I unscrewed the complete screen on the top, and I looked, okay, where are the cables going? And from all these small cables on this big one, they use only 4. So, okay, yeah, great. They use 5-volt pin, ground pin, an RX and a TX pin. These are for the 4 pins. And luckily, they have a description on the board which pin has which meaning. And on that way, I figured out, okay, I think the brown cable here, I show this to you, right? The brown cable is 5 volt. This one here, lila, or purple, the purple cable is ground, and the other two cables, the white one and the red one, are RX and TX, or TX and RX. And you have to notice that when you cannot, or you should not connect RX on the display to RX on the board, because you have always connect RX to TX. To describe that, it is so, I don't remember it right, but when you have here an RX pin, then the signal goes in here or goes out of the board, and the RX pin or the TX pin is always going out, and the other pin is always going in from the signal. So when you're going out of the RX pin, then you can't go into the RX pin, because it would always also go out. So you have to go into the TX pin where it goes in. I will show you a diagram later. Yeah, but what you need is the plug, here this T-plug, and the pins to do this. So then you can use the original mainboard for that. Yeah, this is everything you have to do on the hardware side for that. Yeah, the whole thing is not pretty clean at the moment. My cable management is not so great, but nobody sees it, so it's running, it's doing its job. And yeah, just let us switch. Oh no, I'll show you what we do now, because I have a running setup, and I won't clean all this setup back up, especially from the software side, and do it again. So what we're gonna do is, I have this guy down here, my old sturdy CR10, and I have a Raspberry Pi Model 3B+. This guy, my CR10, is running really good, but I never did anything onto the electronics. And what I'm gonna do now is to install Octoprint and Klipper onto the Raspberry Pi. And I'm gonna show you what you have to mention out or figure out onto the config. And yeah, the rest is only setting up an SKR board. So this is not the thing. This you can do later. But I show it to you with the Raspberry Pi, and we will do it for this one. So let's go onto the PC.
So, welcome back to my PC. Before we start, my main sources of information were the website from klipper3d.org. That was my main source for the installing guide. But for this build, we need a modified version of Klipper. And at this point, special thanks to Dizu, who made a modified version to run with the DWIN touchscreens and their firmware. So special thanks to that guy. He made a really good job. So we hop in onto our Raspberry Pi with Octoprint. The first thing we have to do is to install the OctoClipper plugin. I already have installed it, but you go on to Settings, Plugin Manager, onto More, pretty important. Type in OctoClipper, it is installed at the moment, and then just install it. After the reset, you will have this kind of build with connect, and he will give you a warning. That's normal because we are still missing a few files. So we need two more programs. If you don't already have these kind of programs, the first one is Putty, to write and give some commands onto our Raspberry Pi. And we need a program for file transfer, and for that reason I use WinSCP. That's the easiest one, I think. So let's start. We go onto Klipper, And Klipper already says we have to clone this hub here and the files from this hub. We are using the files from DISO, and the easiest way to do this is I open an editor, I copy that, and again special thanks to DISO. And what I'm gonna do is just remove the name, writing in DISO because this is a GitHub. Copy that shit, and now I go on to PuTTY, type in my IP address. What was my IP address? 129. Alright, open it up. Yes. So I'm logging in as the user P with the password Raspberry. And here we are. Welcome onto our Raspberry. So now I copy that, and in PuTTY you can you do not press Control V. You just make a right click, and he is copying all the things you want to do. He's now downloading cloning the things. After downloading and cloning the things, you have the next command. Just press enter. You will have to insert the password again, Raspberry, and now he's running. This may take some time. I make a little break here, and I'll see you in a few seconds. So we are back. The system is completely installed. It says okay. So I already made some tests. You proceed with the installing guide. Press cd Klipper to go into the directory. So we make menu config, and now we need to know which CPU we are using. The SKR 1.4 board uses an LPC1769. I have the SKR Mini on it, and this guy is using another version. This is an ARM Cortex from STM, and I have to use this one. So this is not an Atmega, so normally you go into the LPC176X smoothie board. I go into the STMs, and my processor model is an F013. I think this is the only, yes, perfect. This is a standard bootloader communication interface. It's the USB. On your system, when you have your Ender 6, you enable the extra low level configuration. You activate the enable DGOS screen, and the screen port has to be, it stands there then USART or UART 0. This is the default value, and you have to use this, then it's running. I show this to you. I switch onto the LPC1769. The 1.4 turbo that I'm using is the 1769. So the bootloader is a SmoothieWare bootloader, communication interface USB, and this is the port you have to choose. And the rest is stock, so I go back. I can disable that. I just need my STM-F103. Now you press Q. Oh, I just have to check that everything is okay. Yep, Q and yes. And now he saved now the values, and now we just type in make. So we make. Ta-da! Now it's compiling the complete firmware. It's pretty similar to Marlin. The only difference is you compile the firmware on the Raspberry and not on your own PC. This is a big difference. In that meantime, you can connect onto your Raspberry Pi via WinSCP. Here I am. Great. So where is it? Okay, version preprocessing, linked in creating hex file. It created my hex file, and the Klipper point bin, this is my firmware. So we go on to that one. We go into Klipper, out, and here is my firmware file. I would recommend that you open up on folder and copy that file. So I'm now downloading it, and to use it on SKR board you have to rename it. It has to name of firmware.bin, and now you can move it onto your SD card, move it into the SKR board, start the SKR board, give it a minute, then you can shut it off, and your SD and your firmware should be written. Yes. So I will do this now, and I come back in a few seconds. So I inserted the SD card and flashed the firmware, connected the Raspberry Pi, switched power off, power on, and now I connected back onto my Raspberry Pi, and now we can check if we have a connection. So we need the serial port for the controller. For that reason, we copy that, copy and paste this, and now we get this back. I recommend to open an editor file. I already did this, and copy this path into your editor file, because we later on need this, or in the next step, for the printer-cfg. What you can do now, forget these parts. What you have to do, you'll go back into Octoprint. You go into your settings and OctoClipper. By serial port, you have to get this thing in, and I have to look, no, and the serial connection you get from serial port to TMV printer. That's the first thing you do. And the second one, behavior, you go from this to this and save it. Alright, and now we should get a connection. Okay. Seems so that we have now a connection. Yeah, but we have no config file. That's okay. So what we're gonna do now is we go back into our WinSCP. Oh, come on. Then we have it from Klipper. I think config. Yes, we have an example file. You can use the SKR. I recommend for you to use the SKR _v 1.4. I have to use, because I have another board, the SKR Mini v 2.0. I copy that one. Come on. And get it in home _p and paste it in there. Yes. So, and now you have to rename it in printer-cfg. You open that file, you scroll down, and at one point you have this MCU serial, and in here you copy and paste this number. So like this. Alright, save it. It's gone, and then you can restart your host. Klipper state disconnected, and we are ready. Voila! Now we should have I had a short connection. Here. Yes, it is here. We have a running system. So what you can do now, you can check here what you have, and from now on you can play around in your config file by simply opening WinSCP, go into your file, changing things, press save, close it, make a restart, host and firmware, and your config is read in. So that's basically all you have to do to keep it running. I attach you a zip file with all necessary files for the Ender 6, also my config file that I'm running at the moment, and yeah, so the whole system is now running. I will check now all things onto my CR10, and yeah, I hope this helps. If you have any questions or you have any further informations, please let me know. But I think we're good to go now. So have fun. Good luck while setting up your own SKR Klipper combination. And yeah, see ya. So sorry guys, I forgot something to mention. For the touchscreen, you also need to flash a new firmware onto the stock Ender 6 screen. And again, special thanks to Dizu, he did this too. So we go into his hub, onto the GGUS Reloaded Klipper repository, and here stands everything you need to know. So we have the modified version, and what we do now, we need where is it? So we need to flash the firmware. I just opened it up, and it says you download a file from the latest release. This is this one here. Click on, and it's getting to download. You unpack that, and then you will have a DVIN set folder. And you can open up, there are all the things in it. So what you also need, because we already have a written firmware, for that reason we go one step back, and where is it? At one point, we go one step back. He says at point 3, optional, if you're coming from a different firmware, which indeed we are doing, we also click on here and download this file, this T5UID1.cfg. Download it. Yeah. And this file we need to copy. So go into my downloads, copy that file, put it in here, and down here you have the same, have a file named in the same way. So you delete this, get this file, or first before you move it there, rename it, copy that, put it in here, and now you can use your SD card, put only this folder onto the SD card, unscrew everything from the touchscreen, put in the SD card, switch power on, and then it should start. I won't show you this because I already did this, but there is a good site for a Klipper installation with a stock mainboard. This is 3D Print Beginner. They made, or he made, or she made, I don't know, a very good tutorial, and there is it described how to update the screen. And it's down here. So there was one point that is not right, or was it my version? They say, and also Dizu said, you have to format your micro SD to FAT32 with this allocation. With this allocation, my boot sequence didn't start. So I used the standard format with a standard allocation, with the standard values with an 8 gigabyte SD card, and it worked perfectly. So as named here, put it onto your folder, press it in, and then it has to look like this, and then it should start. So this is everything you need to know, and I hope I'm ready now, but I think, yeah, we're good to go. So guys, see ya.